Is virtual reality a novelty, or could it pave the way for the future of gaming? This Thursday, Sony is releasing the much anticipated PlayStation VR headset with a starting price of $399. But the version you'll likely need or want would be the $499 launch bundle, which includes the camera, 2 Move controllers, as well as the VR Worlds game disc.
$500? That headset better clean the cat box because Lord knows Jeremy isn't gonna do it.
$500 is a very steep price point for a peripheral, and it will likely deter a lot of gamers. But I don't think it's just the price tag that'll have consumers wondering whether or not VR is actually worth it. Virtual reality has come a long way, and it will definitely have a place in future technologies. The educational and medical implementations alone are worthy of their own discussion. But this means little to nothing to a consumer interested in virtual reality or video games. And this isn't the first attempt at bringing a VR headset into the video game market. In 1991, we were introduced to the first real public access to VR through Virtuality arcade machines. The Virtuality Group launched a range of arcade machines with less than 50 millisecond latency, real-time, immersive, stereoscopic 3D visuals. And some of the games were even linked together for a multiplayer gameplay experience. Less than 50 millisecond latency, bro? That's better than your boy Benham's internet connection, kid, and that was in 1991. Okay? We need to upgrade that internet, bro. Virtuality machines surprised the video game and VR industry, but the main complaint was the lack of resolution in graphics and software support from developers. Sega attempted to get into virtual reality in 1993 and announced the Sega VR headset for the Genesis console. It was even going to come in at a $200 price point, which would be roughly $325 today, but it never ended up leaving the prototype phase and subsequently was never released to the public. Then CEO Tom Kalinske stated that the system was not released due to its inducing motion sickness and severe headaches in users. Where have we heard that one before, bro? It wasn't until 1995 when Nintendo released the Virtual Boy that a VR headset truly became readily available to consumers. Despite extensive advertising for the Virtual Boy and a whopping $25 million on early promotions, it was a commercial failure and was discontinued less than a year later. I had a friend who was lucky enough to get one of these bad boys during our childhood, and I got the opportunity to play it. Anyone who's ever played a Virtual Boy will tell you the same thing. It was pretty cool, but the monochromatic red graphics hurt your eyes, and the tabletop VR headset was really uncomfortable. Several prominent scientists and publications determined that prolonged use of the Virtual Boy could cause sickness, flashbacks, and even permanent brain damage.
But to be honest, that was just a thing to say in the 90s to scare parents into listening. I mean, I let Jeremy play the Virtual Boy for hours on end and he didn't develop any brain damage. No, he was like that way before the Virtual Boy.
The 3D aspect of the Virtual Boy wasn't very immersive, and it ended up adding no real value to the gaming experience. But this huge flop of a console did little to deter Nintendo. They continued to innovate and try new things. The Virtual Boy paved the way for future gaming peripherals and 3D technology like the Nintendo 3DS. And now, nearly 21 years later, we're finally getting our first real attempt at a virtual reality peripheral with the PlayStation VR headset.
It mean out of nigga side vision, It's a nigga in the back thought it was a car. That nigga got a peripheral? It don't even come out till 2006.
But that's not to say that this will be the definitive future of gaming. Virtual reality is very impressive and immersive, but I wonder how long the honeymoon phase will last. The honeymoon phase is that period of time when you become infatuated with new technology. If you've never tried VR before, then you're in for a real treat. It's fun, realistic, scary, and tiring all at the same time. But VR games aren't something I see myself playing for hours on end, And right now, I don't think they're intended to be. Sony said there are currently 230 developers working on content for the PSVR with a supposed 50 titles available by the end of the year. But we've heard these promises from Sony and developers before when it comes to new games and release dates. With price points ranging from $20 to a full $60 game, it's kind of hard to tell what exactly you'll be getting with these games. Developers are becoming notoriously untrustworthy when it comes to marketing new games and titles, and $500 is a steep price for investing in a peripheral that might not take off the way Sony is hoping. Most gamers spend at least an hour a day playing video games, and some Twitch partners stream for upwards of 8 to 12 hours per session. This is a long time to wear a VR headset, and with a $20 game or VR experience, it's very unlikely that some of these games will be able to sustain repeated or extended gameplay sessions. There simply isn't enough content outside of the novelty that is virtual reality.
Wow, I could swear I was really playing virtual skee-ball.
Not to mention, early adopters of VR technology like the Oculus Rift have already complained about eye strain due to prolonged usage. One Reddit user by the name of Abor reported persistent eye strain after using the Oculus Rift. Specifically the muscles behind it. Definitely eye strain, and it persists after I take the Rift off. I'm gonna take a week off to let it recover.
Really? You mean staring all day at a bright screen an inch from your face isn't healthy for your eyesight? Go figure.
So is VR worth it, or is it a novelty? In my opinion, at this point, it's definitely a novelty. Sony and its developers will spend the next year trying to entice gamers into dropping $500 on its new peripheral and the accompanying games. But seeing as the price point is so high, if early adopters of the PSVR don't see quality games and experiences, this will definitely deter developers from making games for the peripheral. Don't get me wrong, VR is incredibly cool and super immersive, but there are so many factors and issues that Sony will have to deal with over the next year that you might be better off waiting for a price drop or at least a better selection of games. Developers are still trying to get a handle on what makes a game fun to play with our current gaming setup. Adding in new elements of gameplay is another factor to consider when developing a new game. And with the rise of 4K console gaming, with PlayStation Pro and the soon-to-be released Project Scorpio, you'll definitely have plenty of new titles to occupy your gaming needs. Lastly, and most ironically, the general manager of Nintendo's original R&D team defended the red graphics of the Virtual Boy, stating, "Color graphics give people the impression that a game is high-tech, but just because a game has a beautiful display does not mean that that game is fun to play." And the same goes for PSVR. While it might be neat to be immersed in a virtual world, the novelty and rarity of such an experience will soon wear off, and we will be left at the discretion of video game developers once again. Which brings me to the end of the episode and my favorite portion of the video, Irma's crapometer. How much of a crap should you really give about today's episode?
Today's turd-tastic topic trickles down the toilet with 3 out of 5 turds. Virtual reality scares the crap out of me. I'm afraid if it's too realistic, Jeremy will never want to leave the basement. And if it sucks, well, there goes $500. If you have money to blow, then why the hell do you care if VR is worth it? Just blow your money on whatever the crap you want and quit looking for validation on the internet. If you're trying to decide whether or not to spend your hard-earned cash, my advice is save your money and spend it on a subscription to Match.com. Or an Olive Garden gift card and take me out to dinner. Oh, baby.
That does it for today's episode, dudes. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to show your support and hit that like button. And until next time, peace out, what it do.